Well, thank you all for your time today, guys. Really appreciate it. Should start by saying good afternoon. My name's David Siggery. I'm a retirement key account manager at Aviva, and I'm joined today by your dedicated BDM, Che Clark. So hopefully you've met him before or spoken to him before. If not, we'll make sure you got Che's details after the session. But thank you for joining us for today's webinar. In the past, we've presented to you guys on Aviva's equity release proposition, the importance of health and lifestyle questions. And if you'd like us to revisit those sessions, do webinars on those again, for you guys to refresh your knowledge, let us know. We'll be happy to do so. But today we're going to explore navigating the property puzzle when it comes to equity release. Because when we speak to advisors, one of the most common challenges we come across are that property estimates are different to valuation figures, or the property's declined following a valuation, both of which mean that advice could need to be revisited. And that's something we're keen to sort of try and reduce and try and help you guys with. So for that reason, we're going to look at ways to support you with managing the property part of the process by sharing insights and tips that we've been given from our RICS qualified surveyors that we have in-house, and also by sharing a bit of a lender's perspective as well, so that you can to help you guys to manage your clients' expectations and signpost things as early as possible to lead to a smooth an application process as possible. So with this in mind, we're going to cover the following agenda items you can see on your screen. And while you guys digest those agenda items, I just wanted to start by doing a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. So if everyone doesn't mind sort of keeping their mics on mute, that'd be great. This session will take about 30 minutes. So it's a nice, quick, short, sharp webinar, which hopefully deliver a lot of value to you guys. But within that 30 minutes, I have allowed some time for questions as well. So do ask questions. We really want to get your questions from you guys regarding the session or anything that any questions you've got that come up. If you can pop them in the chat, Che will collate those as we go through the webinar, and at the end we'll answer as many of the questions as you guys have got as possible. And if there's any we don't get to, Che will give you guys a call shortly after the webinar to answer those as well. But hopefully we'll have enough time to get through anything you guys have to raise. So it's a fair few agenda items there, and we're going to cover those items by covering the following learning objectives. And I'll revisit these learning objectives at the end just to make sure that we've covered them, and yeah, you've got everything you need from the webinar as well. So let's first take a look at the role of the advisor when it comes to property valuations. Then we'll look at sort of how an advisor can manage expectations before sort of coming back to the role of the advisor again. So yeah, the role of the advisor. You're probably sitting there thinking, why is the role of the advisor important, David? Why is that important as part of this process? Well, we believe that advisors play a vital role in managing customers' expectations relating to their property. Being proactive in identifying at the earliest point possible anything that could mean that lending against the property may be restricted, reduced, or simply not possible will assist, educate and inform not only the customer, but assist yourselves as well in locating an appropriate lender and as streamlined as possible. So on the screen, you will see some headline statistics that underline this. And as you've seen from the statistics, once an application has been received and the valuation completed, as of about April 2025, 71% of those cases are returned on or above the customer's estimate, or within 10% of that estimate, meaning the case can normally continue. So that's good news. That's kind of where we want the process to be. However, 11% of valuations are returned to Aviva as declines, otherwise known as zero valuations. And a further 18% are returned with a valuation of more than 10% difference, whether that's higher or lower. So that means that overall, 29% of all valuations conducted, which is roughly 1 in 4 of your customers that you'll speak to, will have to have their advice revisited. So for this reason, some customers could come to harm that potentially could have been avoided. And that's something that we want to help you guys to reduce. So today we'll provide you with insights that may assist in reducing that volume and potentially mitigate any foreseeable harm that loan delays or unfulfilled expectations can generate. And this is crucial because with the need for advisors to act in the best interest of customers, um, to help them to avoid foreseeable harms, evidence recommendations of which lending criteria will play a part, and ensuring that advice is personalised. Um, as you guys will hear all the time, no one property will be the same, right? So we need to make sure we're considering all these things. And of course, Consumer Duty's come out recently to help us do that. So let's take a further look at the advisor role in managing expectations of property valuations. So we all know that every person in the UK's home is their castle, right? And the love and the sentiment they have for their property can often lead them to believe the property is maybe worth more than it actually is. Um, from an advisor's perspective, this is where you are able to utilise your experience, your knowledge, your expertise to ensure the customer expectations are set early. As no one wants to do all the paperwork for an application based on the property value that you don't think is achievable, right? It's kind of a waste of your time. But most importantly, we don't want the customer to go through that journey either. So some of the most common challenges we hear from customers are around property estimates. And you can see some of those on the screen now. So when it comes to property estimates, the key issue driving dissatisfaction with valuations is a perception of down valuation. So much of the problem stems from the fact that equity release is mainly taken out on customers' existing homes and not for property purchase, which obviously means there's no agreed price following the action of the market. So we rely on customers to have a perception of what their property might be worth, which is often extremely difficult to assess, if I'm honest. And particularly if the property is unique, or a term we're hearing more and more often in the industry is bespoke, or even where there have been few sales of similar properties in that area, it can be really tough to assess that value. There's also a perception that surveyors would actively look to down value cases, which I can assure you is not the case, but I can understand why customers may sometimes feel like that when they've seen a surveyor. So what can we do to help? So what I wanted to do was kind of outline kind of what Aviva's surveyors require. So again, you can be aware of that, to signpost that to your clients as early as possible to kind of reduce the chances of having to revisit advice, as I mentioned earlier, and helping the client from maybe having foreseeable harm in the future. So many of you will have had issues with unexpectedly low valuations in the past. And you may have suspicions yourself about the valuation process and the surveyor's competence. So I just wanted to underline Aviva's position. So Aviva's instructions are to value full market value as defined by RICS. So we don't require a quick sale valuation. Valuations are on the day, so we don't require the valuers to predict the market. And a valuer can't be sued if the market falls after their assessment. All valuations have to be supported by evidence of ideally 3 completed comparable sales to be acceptable to Aviva. And all valuers are either members or associates of RICS. So what this means is their performance is not only monitored by their employers, but also through the RICS value registration scheme. So you can be, the customer and yourselves can be confident that the surveyor's going out there has been monitored, is competent to do the job they're required to do. But again, with some of that information I've just mentioned, some of the stuff you see on the screen there, really worth signposting that to your clients as early in the process as possible. Another challenge we see a lot is customer estimates. So estimating the value of a property can be very difficult as well. Even in this digital age where we have loads of information to our fingertips, it can prove difficult. Estimates provided by the property websites are often wildly inaccurate, especially with the properties unusual or bespoke, as we mentioned earlier. And quite often they're asking prices of similar properties for sale are often quoted to us as the reason for the estimate. So again, quite often we're asking a client where they've got the estimate from, they'll just quote similar property prices. So again, that's always something to watch out for. Because we all know that prices asked and actually achieved can be significantly different. So I think probably most people realise that an estate agent's marketing advice is not a valuation and it can't be treated as evidence of value. And we see, and you guys would have seen as well, that there are a lot of probably less scrupulous agents in the market as well who can compete with each other simply by trying to impress sellers with the highest proposed marketing price. And of course, once the contract's signed, we see a couple of weeks or a month later that price will reduce if they can't sell it. So again, that's something to be aware of as well. Lastly, we find that customers often overestimate the value of changes they've made to the property, particularly if these are specialist features. And again, it's understandable. They would spend a lot of money on their property. They've got sentimental ties to the property as well. And again, it's probably something that they're quite into, so they'll feel that it's added the value at least they've spent. And the obvious ones to look out for here are things like swimming pools, which you might be surprised to hear in some circumstances may actually detract from the value. Because again, you need someone that wants a swimming pool is have to pay for the swimming pool costs to come and purchase the property for the value you're looking for. And that's a similar thing that we find with like equestrian equipment or horse riding equipment that we see on rural properties as well. Quite often, this is going to have a narrow appeal to people looking to purchase that property, because really you're looking for someone to purchase that property that's got a keen interest as the as a customer has in horse riding. So again, that can make things a little bit more difficult as well. So worth being aware of that with customer estimates. So we looked at a few things to be aware of to manage the client's expectations. And I wanted to look back at the role of the advisor here, because earlier we mentioned that 71% of valuations come back at above or within 10% of the estimate provided. Some 11% are declined by zero valuation, meaning they don't meet our lending criteria for some reason. And typically that reason is to do with construction type or the condition of the property. This leaves us with 18% which are past the valuation but are assessed at more than 10% below the estimate. And as you're aware, being outside 10% of the estimate may mean with Aviva, as well as other lenders, that the customer will not get the original terms that they applied on, which could cause foreseeable harm. But this will vary from lender to lender. So what can you guys do to be proactive about this as advisors? Well, there are a number of actions an advisor can take to mitigate the risk of an unrealistic valuation being used for research and application. First of all, focus on research prices actually achieved from comparable properties. If possible, the ideal is that you can get that within the local area, and try and get free comparable properties that have been sold in the last 12 months. That's kind of that's really useful and helps with the process. But this isn't always possible. So as much information as you can get about any comparable properties that have sold and the property itself, it is really useful if you can't get that. If possible, look at floor areas of the comparables as well. A lot of people feel they've got a really valuable property, so maybe it's a big 6-bedroom house or something like that, but actually the square footage is really quite small. So it's worth being aware of that, because that can, like, counting bedroom numbers alone can give a false picture. All the main property websites will hold up past sales information and be able to tell you things like square footage and give you a good feel for what the property looks like, as does land registry as well. So they're always worth looking at before your initial client meetings as well. Explain the role of surveyor to the customer as well. Like where you can, explain the process and its importance to your customer as well. And that includes the steps a surveyor will follow, who they'll contact, when they'll contact them, what the approach the surveyor will take, and the possible outcomes and the consequences. Because again, signposting this early, letting the clients be made aware of this, means that later on it makes a smoother application process later on down the line. The clients are aware of what they might what they need to expect from the process as well, so it doesn't catch them out or anything like that. And again, we find it reduces challenges as well. But finally, if you still get a valuation back and you've done all those things and feel that the valuation isn't correct, at Aviva we've got a valuation challenge form as well. So you speak to Che about that. You'll be able to complete that form. If you could fill out all the information it requires, we can get that to our RICS qualified surveyors to assess. And of course, if you do complete all that information, that form, and you still want more information about the property, as I've mentioned, share all the information with us, because the more information we have about properties, the better in these circumstances. So we've gone through the role of the advisor, giving some tips and things to discuss with your customers and to signpost early with them to make the process as smooth as possible and reduce the chances of needing to revisit the advice. I just want to quickly go through what other support that we have at Aviva as well for you guys. And the first thing to probably bring up is our lending criteria. So we still have the widest lending criteria in the market. And as mentioned before, if you aren't sure if a property may be acceptable, especially if it's outside the ordinary or bespoke, as everyone likes to call them these days, let us know and let us know how to contact our RICS qualified surveyors to have a look. They'll happily have a look for you. Again, feel free to do that in preparation for the client meeting, and they can look at the property and maybe tell you a couple of information pieces that are worth preparing your client for in the initial meeting as well. Because as I mentioned, the earlier you do that, the smoother the process and the journey can be for everyone, which is good news. And again, just to look at our wide lending criteria again as well, as you can see here, there's not really too much that Aviva won't consider. We've got properties with self-contained parts of the property, like annexes and stuff. If they're being let out to tenants, as long as appropriate AST is in place, we're happy to look at them. You'll find people these days, or customers these days, like to use part of their business, part of their property, sorry, for personal business use. So as long as that's not taking up more than 50% of the property, we're happy to consider those as well. Flats with local authority, basement flats, happy to look at all that as well. And there's an additional form on our Aviva for Advisor website, which is a flat template, which has a couple of extra questions to be mindful of as well. And even eco homes, we're looking at them. They're coming up a little bit more these days as well. Again, get as much information for sure as you possibly can around those, and certainly worth getting a heads up from our surveyors before we see a client regarding those. But it's, again, something that we'll consider. And even properties with like a lot of acreage as well. I've seen us consider properties with 50 acres of land. So if you're lucky to get a customer who has that much land, again, on the face of it, it might look like a decline, but actually it maybe will be something that we consider with a little bit of additional information as well. So that's the first bit of support that we offer you guys. We've also got digital support as well. So on the Aviva for Advisors website, you guys will be able to get a login, and you'll find things like thought leadership articles we've got and sales aids. We're finding a lot of advisors are taking a look at those and using those in client meetings to support their advice these days. But we've also got a compound interest calculator, which you may not be aware of. This allows you to demonstrate potential outcomes to a customer and retain those outcomes on file, which is really important. You can adjust the loan details, you can adjust the interest rate and any repayment amount planned. And interestingly, you'll also be able to make an assumption for house price inflation on that calculator as well, otherwise known as HPI. So the loan can be tracked against any property growth over time, which will demonstrate the remaining equity to the customer. So we know from advisors that are using these tools regularly how valuable they're finding them, and how it's bringing sometimes difficult conversations and concepts to life for customers in meetings as well. So if you've not used those before, if you've not seen them, do take a look, and I hope you get the benefit that other advisors are getting from those tools at the moment. We've got additional digital support for you guys as well. So you'll probably be aware that we've got a digital quote and apply journey now as well, where you can track a client's application, track a client's journey from KFI to completion. Again, as part of that, you'll be able to see when the valuation's been requested and when the surveyor's going out to see the client. Once the valuation's been done as well, you'll be able to see the report on Aviva for advisors as well. So you can go through that with the customer if that's useful to you guys as well, and useful to be aware of as well. We've also got post-sale support for you guys. So again, if you log into Aviva for advisors, if a client's completed the lifetime mortgage with Aviva, you can find that client and you'll be able to see whether the client's made any voluntary partial repayments, whether they've accessed their reserve, what the ERC value is, what the redemption value is, all that sort of useful information that's really useful when you're reviewing a customer. You can find all that out on Aviva for Advisors post that as well. We've also got digital support for additional borrowing now, also known as further advance. So again, if you're looking to do additional borrowing or further advance, there's a digital quote and apply journey for that as well. So hopefully that makes things easier for you guys when you're working with clients and things like that. But in a world full of AI and digital support, we don't just have digital support. We've also got a human support as well. So we've got Che, like myself and Che. We're your dedicated support here at Aviva. I support you guys from a strategic point of view. So if I can come out to see you guys face to face, or you've got any questions, do let me know. Happy to do that. And Che's a dedicated support for you guys as well. So if you've got any Questions about the market. Chay's market knowledge is really, really impressive, and I'm lucky to be aligned with him. Even though he's on the phone, I will say that. But no, his market and industry knowledge is really good. He's great for any product queries you might have. Lending criteria inquiries as well. If you want to know how to access those RICS qualified advisors that I'm talking about, speak to Chay. He'll let you know how to do that. We also have something at Aviva called dynamic pricing, which, if I'm honest, Ticketmaster has killed that term for me. But it is a positive thing at Aviva still. And what it means is that we're basically plugged into daily fluctuations in the market. And as you guys will have noticed in the recent couple of years, gilt yields are fluctuating regularly, and we're having a lot of we're regularly having rate changes in this market. So but what that might mean is that when you're sourcing the product or for your client, the rates may change when you go to review the client. So do give Chay a call. We're happy to review our rates at any time. And again, this is a really competitive market now as well. So again, it might be that we need to compete with another lender. So again, we're happy to review our rates to make sure that you and your customer have the best rates from Aviva as well. And even if you think, or Aviva say low down on the sourcing system, do contact Chay and just make sure that you've got a best quote there as well. He's happy to do that too. So yeah, Chay, I don't want to give you too much additional work there, but a really good resource for you guys to tap into. So we've spoken today about the role of the advisor, managing customer expectations when it comes to valuations and ways that we can reduce advice having to be revisited. We've gone through an awful lot of information in a short space of time here. So what I want to do before we conclude the presentation is give you the key takeaways that I've gone through and just sort of summarize all the information I've given you all at once. So firstly, I really want you to remember that 1 in 4 customers from our experience need their advice revisiting following evaluation, which is something we really want to reduce. So I've tried to summarize what I've presented today into sort of 3 headings. Of what we've discussed. So it's really important to educate customers, challenge their assumptions, and set their expectations throughout the journey in order to try and reduce the need to revisit the advice. It's vital that customers understand the application process and any potential challenges that may arise from their property valuation. Educating them and being realistic can avoid harm and reduce the instances where advice needs to be revisited. Again, we've got research here as well. So for research, for once, I'm not referring to product sourcing systems, but your work before an application that's made to establish the best course of action for the customer. And again, hopefully reduce the chances of the advice needing to be revisited. When meeting the customer at property, get all the information you can. That's something I can't underline enough. Get as much information as you can. When you're visiting the property, look out for things that may need to be considered that you can feed into us as a question for our surveyors and get an answer to, but also things in particular, those things that may easily be declined as well that you might notice as well. So things like if someone's got spray foam in their loft, if someone's got a pylon 2 meters outside their front door, those kind of things. If you provide remote advice, it could be worthwhile considering the use of mobile devices to do things like virtual property tours, or asking the customer to do that as well. They may be happy to do that for you. And where you do look to do that as well, make sure that you're not just doing a virtual tour internally, make sure you're doing it externally as well, because again, that's the sort of thing when a surveyor comes out and does a valuation, they're going to be looking internal and external of the property. So again, you'll have all the information up front, so that again, you can signpost anything the client might need to be made aware of and manage those expectations. Make sure you've completed research and comparable sales, as you mentioned as well, before your initial customer meeting. The ideal is 3 comparable sales in the local area in a 12-month period, but failing in that, get as much information as you can. And again, another benefit from doing this is when you've got this information as well, and you've got the answers to any questions that information may raise, you can share that with the customer. You can share that research and use it as a discussion point as well, which again sort of prepares them for the advice journey that they're about to go on. This will then help research the most appropriate lender to suit your customers' needs. So hopefully it saves you some time as well by doing that additional bit of work as well. Finally, personalisation is a term we all love to mention these days in the financial service industry, and it's important. That's why every customer property, as you will know and see, will be different. And also, like, their circumstances will be different as well, right? So when you're presenting a property to lenders for consideration, do ensure that you've shared as much information as possible, as I keep mentioning, so that you give yourself the best chance of the case being accepted and progressing to completion without unnecessary delays. And most importantly, it gives the customer the best chance of having a smooth application journey as possible as well, which is the most important thing. So, we're pleased to know coming near to conclusion of my presentation today. But firstly, I just wanted to reiterate the learning outcomes or our objectives that we've covered today. I promise you, I know it looks like it on the screen, these two learning outcomes haven't had an argument, but and so they're just looking a little bit far apart. But what have we done today? We've taken a look at what have we covered today? We've looked to cover and understand the importance of managing expectations with your client in relation to property valuations, and we've understood what practical steps from a property perspective you can take to support your customers as well. Without further ado, that concludes my presentation. So there's been a lot of information in a short space of time. So if there's any questions, do let us know. And if anything comes up after the webinar, do contact myself and Shay. But I will let Shay get a word in edgeways here now. Shay, we had any questions? Or do you guys just want to ask any questions? There's only a couple of you.
I was going to say nothing on the chat, but I thought it'd be good to let you rest your voice for a little bit. So yeah, anything from anybody on the line? We'll start property, and then if we get nothing for property, I'll expand the net, and soon, who knows, I'll be asking what football teams you support.
Well, I'll give some feedback then, Che, if I may, because I've used your additional borrowing support tool last month. So we ended up doing a further drawdown, and then we were going to do a further advance, and they changed their mind last minute just because of the rate. And they decided, no, we won't do that further advance right now. But to have the tool there to be able to get that information and not have to wait days for it to be produced by somebody is actually really useful and very valuable. So thank you. I'm already seeing the benefit of that, and it was great to be able to do that. I haven't looked at things like some of the tools like the calculator yet. I wasn't aware that was there, so I need to go back and have a look at that. And then some other feedback as well. I still feel like I haven't seen a lot of changes in terms of your early repayment charges. Now, have I missed anything? Have you changed your early repayment charge structure recently?
It was changed, I believe it was earlier in the year or late last year, in that we went from the 15-year down to the 10-year.
Yeah.
Since then, I know there's been a lot of change elsewhere in the market where that's now going, you've got 8 years, you've got a bit less. Still got the max product, which of course is 4 years, but there are conversations internally on what can we do now. Yeah, we're not content with 10.
Recommending you guys, right? Yeah, you've got good lending criteria, but actually, if we're saying, well, the industry is changing, borrowers are getting younger, they're in their late 50s, early 60s now, or on average, I don't know, 5 or 10 years younger than perhaps they were 10 years ago. Then we say actually the likelihood of them redeeming this loan early is more, and it's of higher value to the client to have more flexible early repayment charges. And we're seeing it across everywhere else. And I've got from you a movement, we've had from you a movement that was probably to the industry average maybe 5 or 8 years ago. And it feels like you're playing catch up. And it's harder for me to recommend you because actually when I do stuff through you, it's very efficient. And it works, and I want to be able to use you more because it works. But it's getting the cases through to you is quite hard.
No, and thank you is what I can say to that. It's thank you for letting me know. I've just been making notes. I've not been dozing off as you've spoke. I've just made some notes on that. It's a conversation. It's me and David. We are the front lines, and this is what we hear, and this is what we want to act on. But unfortunately, there's people who aren't as close to the action who make all the decisions. So is war. So it will, of course, it's always fed back. And as soon as anything changes, I'll be sure to.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Shay, there as well. Keep feeding it into us, Anthony, because we are listening. I absolutely promise we're listening. So we can be a little bit slower than others to make the changes, as you mentioned, but we generally do get there, and we do listen to what you guys are saying. This is why we changed our ERC period on our lifestyle flexible option from 15 years to 10. And we did that for all customers. So that was like retrospective customers as well as new customers. It's only a
Yeah.
small benefit, I understand that, but it's from us listening to you guys, we've done that. And the same with the full year ERC on Lifestyle Max that we've introduced as well. It's all from the feedback you give us. So keep it coming. We'll keep feeding it in. And hopefully, in the not too distant future, we might have something new to update you guys around. Around those things as well, and certainly things like voluntary partial repayments as well, because we get a lot of feedback around that area too. So yeah, thank you for feeding in, and we'll keep you up to date as well. We'll make sure you're one of the first as well when we do make the changes, because you've been kind enough to give us the feedback.
Okay, look, I've got another one around property types. I'm going to be coming to you with one, Che. And sorry,
Perfect.
I won't get too specific and too in the weeds. I know we've got John and Moan on the call, but this is more about my expectation. When I come to Aviva, you are, I feel very rude in saying this, and I don't mean it in this way, but it's perhaps my lack of vocabulary. But I sometimes consider you a lender of last resort because of the breadth of your lending criteria. And it means that, for example, I've got a property now where I've got a couple that want to develop 2 properties in the garden for their daughters. So we're going to need to look to get a title plan over to you to show, hey, they look to plan to split these titles, and evaluation will have to be done on the, on the residential property that's left as a result. And are you okay with them developing 2 properties in the garden, which will have their own access elsewhere, et cetera, et cetera. Now I can come to you practically and have that conversation and know that this is one of your strengths.
Mhm.
But I don't know where your other strengths are at the moment. And I don't get many of those types of inquiries. But you'd be my favorite for that one. Do you see what I mean? But that might be 1 in 20 or 1 in 30 inquiries. If I've got 2 flats in Kensington at the moment, £1.5, £2 million, but that's Legal and General and Canada Life. That's not you guys, because it might be 5 floors rather than 4. And so I'm struggling to recommend you guys, but when I do, it works well. So I want to.
Okay, with the flats that you've just mentioned, had you run into issues where it had been turned away for it being 5 floors?
So I suppose the question is the air sourcing, the de facto criteria on air sourcing, is yours up to date? Because it would appear that it wouldn't meet your lending criteria on that. And then when I put an inquiry through online about it, on their inquiries page, everyone else, their underwriters, come back to me in detail as to whether it meets your lending criteria or not. But you come back and say, please complete a flat form.
Yes.
Yeah.
That.
But on the when I actually check the criteria against air, it would suggest that it doesn't meet your criteria. And I'm thinking, well, why would I go and complete a flat form if it suggests it doesn't meet criteria? So, assume that it's up to date, then I shouldn't be wasting my time, right?
Shay looks like he's frozen, but Anthony, I would send that in to us directly, even though Air may have said it's decline or anything like that, because I'd be interested to see how often that happens as well. Also, because they're bespoke properties, as I keep saying, it's a term we use regularly these days. Again, sometimes some things can look like declines on the face of it, but once the surveyors have looked at it, especially when it's like prime real estate, like the area you're talking about there as well, actually us getting it under the rich guy's nose may make a difference. Or they may say, yes, it's a decline, but actually if you can get A, B, and C information, as well as the flat form as well, then we'll be able to look at it. So what I'd say is for ones like that are a bit weird and wonderful, or bespoke as we call them, still contact Che, get it into him, and just make sure we've got it under those guys' nose. If they say they have, then no need to go any further. But if not, I find quite often in those we do look at them. We've had a lot of Crown Estate stuff in London as well, which on the face of it looked like a no-no, but actually when we spoke to the Ricks guys about it, it was like, no, actually we've got expertise in these properties. We're happy to look at it if you can get ABC information as well. So
the next challenge we've got is that you've got to be competitive with Legal in General, right? And they are. They've sharpened their pencil recently, and it's whether you actually want that business.
Exactly, and feel free at that time as well to let us know what Legal in General, or whoever, don't have to say Legal in General, but like the best competitors this guy. So like
whoever it is.
Can you bear that in mind as well when you're going back to me as well? Because that way then at least we'll accept the property and what we'll need, and that the rate that we're illustrating is kind of in the ballpark of what is acceptable to the client as well, and it's what's competitive in the market too. So happy to do that. Otherwise, we're pretty competitive in other areas as well, especially where health and lifestyle information is obtained as well. So
yeah. There's just, and then you're just below just, if you like. So I'd say you're second now. They moved their funding from others, but it's the early repayment charges that are putting me off.
Yeah, sure.
And putting my clients off, from that perspective. So that's the challenge.
If you don't mind me asking, what is kind of an ideal ERC period for your customers? What kind of their preferences?
Middle of the road is the standard life 876543321, because people will instantly say, well, this is at least a 3 or 4 year decision, so I know I'm paying 54321, right? As a minimum. Never had anyone think it's going to be less than that as a decision horizon. And then Canada Life with a 5 for 5 and a 3 for 3 always feels very comfortable for people. You can easily explain that away as it's not much more than a 5-year fixed mortgage, right? So those for me, and I'm not asking you to produce an early repayment charge
that's good to
comparison to a 5-year mortgage. I get that you can't, but 10, 10, 987, whatever scares people away, and even 1098 these days is, it's just high for people.
Yeah. And if I can ask one other question as well, just to make me relevant in a minute. It's meant to be you guys can ask questions, but I just got one quick one regarding clients' expectations as well. With rates sort of increasing recently as well, kind of at what point do your customers feel uncomfortable with interest rates on high LTV products at the moment?
They're struggling now. So I've got a lot that I've just got on a back burner, a lot of cases, and that's across the spectrum. That's whether it's a property worth 300,000 or a property worth 10 million. I've got one that's not doing a further advance with you, that's up at the high end because it's a high rate, but also they might move in 4 years and they don't want to pay early repayment charges of 6% on it. So it's a combination of both. It's a funny relationship, isn't it? It's once the early repayment charge is less than the interest rate, people become a bit more comfortable with it, but they still feel that interest rate, or product rates rather, are still a little high. It feels very comfortable talking in the 5s and even in the low 6s now, but 7s is a very uncomfortable prospect for anyone that I'm talking to. If the interest starts doubling in less than 10 years, people really worry.
It's a bit nervous. Yeah, that's kind of why it's good. Yeah, thank you for that feedback as well, Anthony. Appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thanks for your time on this, guys, and for being able to talk all that through. Che, I'll be coming back to you about 3 cases directly then, yeah?
Yeah, apologies. I just started talking and was waffling to myself. No. And teams decided that it was going to just shut on me. Because one of the things I wanted to say, Anthony, and this is for this virtual room, if when you're doing a flat inquiry form, or if when you've got a flat, you just drop a message to the pre-sales team and just say, considering everything else is okay, they'll look at the property and they'll deem the property based on that. But afterwards, they do require the flat form. So if you're looking to just have, does the bricks and mortar work? We can do that.
Yeah.
But so you can get a tick on that, but then they'll ask for the form. So that's a way of getting around, because I know that it can be a bit annoying. You just want to check, will you take this? It's London, there might be certain parts to it that make it a bit different to a flat elsewhere. So you can do that. If you get any stick, just again drop me a message. I'm here as me and David are both here as the as much as we're Aviva employees, we're your colleagues, we're your direct link to Aviva. So I'm sat on a fence to say I'm neither one side more. Well, I'm a bit more one side, I'm sure, as you can tell.
What Chase trying to say is we're your internal voice as well, guys. We're happy to help you guys wherever we can, and John and Jennifer as well. If you've not got our direct line details, especially Chase, if you haven't got either of our direct line details, let us know. We'll get them over to you guys as well, as with all the advisors within Julian Harris as well, my man as well. So let us know where we need to share those deals so everyone gets the support that Chase mentioned there.
Yeah, good stuff. Look, thank you.
But any more questions, guys? No. Thank you very much for your time in that case, Dave. Again, if you're anything like me and no questions coming to mind now, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, wake up and think I should have asked that. Again, just give me and Che a shout and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Drop us an email, drop us a line, anything like that. And again, thank you ever so much, not only for your time and listening to me today going to presenter mode, but also, and I hope you got a lot of value from it in all seriousness, but also for the feedback you've given us with listening. We'll feed it back in and let us know if there's any other webinars that we can do that would add value to you guys as well, because we'll look to do those and hopefully present to you guys on a regular basis. But otherwise, we're open for business. We want to work with you guys. Thank you for your time. Keep us honest and keep us earning our money, and let us know wherever we can help you.
Thank you.
That's
Thanks,
great.
guys.